Ilan, thank you for being here. We just got to know a secret we didn't know about Israel and education. A university that most of the people don't know in Mexico. What is this university?
The Open University of Israel. It is one of 9 universities in Israel, and it is the largest of Israel's 9 universities with 53,000 students. So it's an enormous university. It's twice or 3 times larger than any of the other universities in Israel.
Why doesn't nobody know it, or what is the special thing that has the Open University in Israel?
I think people don't know it because it's one of the younger universities, and I would highlight maybe three things about it that are unique. One, there's a mission around social justice and opportunity for all. So this is a university that was founded in the mid-1970s by Yigal Allon, at the time Minister of Education, former Palmach head, and later Minister of Foreign Affairs, as we all know, who had the idea that said, we need to bring university education to the periphery. That the center of Israel, Tel Aviv, Haifa, Jerusalem, has universities, has fantastic universities, and has many graduates of those universities. But the periphery of Israel, the geographic periphery, but also the social periphery, has relatively few graduates, people that go into university, let alone complete university. And so his brainchild was to create a university that has no entrance requirements, no barriers. In other words, you don't need a bagrut, you don't need a high school diploma, you don't need a psychotechni, the SAT equivalent,
Yes.
to enter. You simply have to have the motivation, the desire, and
Everybody can go in. It doesn't mean you don't have to see your backgrounds. How good were you in your school?
It's not what you did before. It's really what do you want to become, and
right.
how motivated are you, and how driven are you in order to achieve that. And so this mission of kind of opening the aperture and creating opportunity for anybody is what the Open University is about. And that's underscored by the Chancellor of the Open University. It's the Honorary Dorit Beinish, who was the first woman to be the President of the Supreme Court of Israel, retired some years ago. And this is one of her main occupations, is to support the Open University of Israel and to give it the social justice mission.
There was something I heard that surprised me, that it goes also to a population, a different population. That is, all right, you get the normal population of a university, but you attack or you get from 2 different populations in Israel that are very important now.
So the Open University initially was set up around the periphery, as I mentioned, the geographic and the social periphery. Haredim, the largest number of Haredi students, largest number of Arab Israeli students, largest number of Druze students, Bedouin students, handicapped students. So that is, if you will, the periphery. But it has now become very, very attractive for what I would call the gig economy. So these are high-tech entrepreneurs, kids that finish the army, want to start working, but also want to get a degree. We also have IDF soldiers. We have over 1,300 or so active duty IDF soldiers who are in the army, and they're getting their degree at the same time.
Including something very secret that not everybody knows about it, and everybody talks about security, about cyber, about everything, no?
A very large number of those IDF soldiers are studying what I would say is STEM, so science, math, computer science, engineering, and many of them are in the intelligence unit, the elite units, including the 8200, the cyber unit of Israel that we all have heard about. And in fact, there's a campus of the Open University inside 4 different intelligence bases of the Israeli Defense Forces. And these kids come and study both online as well as come together inside these campuses on their base.
You say something now that surprised me. A campus inside this army base, or campuses all around. There are many campuses of the Open University, or it's by house, or it's an Open University, you can study wherever. What does it mean to have many campuses?
So it's a very different educational model. It has, instead of having one physical campus, as many universities that probably you and I went to, this university has 70 campuses, physical campuses all across Israel, from the far north to the far south, and including, of course, in the big cities, in Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Haifa, but also in small Arab towns, in Haredi communities, and inside in IDF intelligence
Arab
bases.
campus. That's interesting.
But on top of that, so that's the physical campuses.
Yes.
On top of that, it is the largest university that has an online platform to do online education. And this is not taking a lecture and moving it to Zoom, which every university in the world has done over the last 2 years in the pandemic.
You became that before?
We've been doing this for 15 to 20 years. We built our own platform. We have the most analytically advanced platform. We have a lot of data that we collect across all of our students, and we know who's doing well, who's struggling, and we know that within the first 10 to 15 hours, you kind of know who's going to do well and who's going to struggle, and we can intervene and support those that are struggling.
So they can be in any of the 70 campuses, or they can be doing it online, or they can do it a mix. How is it?
You know, before the pandemic, most wanted to study in one of the 70 campuses or several of the 70 campuses. Since the pandemic, the majority are now online or some kind of hybrid. Online, plus they want to get additional supplemental courses or support in smaller groups in a seminar in one of these physical campuses.
What are the majors you can study in the university? You talk a little bit about them, but which one, if I want to study, what can I study in the Open University?
So there are 8 faculties that cover most everything that almost any university would offer. What we don't have is a school of medicine. We don't have a school of law, but we have a very large computer science facility. We have a very large math department. We have a very large business department, economics, but we also have Jewish studies. We have education. We have social sciences, social studies, etc. So it's a very diverse university, but I would say the largest percent of students, 35 to 40%, are studying STEM. So computer science, math, science, engineering.
That is the future.
And that is the future that is what we all know powers the state of Israel.
I read somebody told me that most of the majority of Haredi kids, it's big of young kids in Israel, and Arab kids and everything, and you're opening a solution for them to be prepared, to be ready, to have a new world. What do you think it's a very important thing about it?
So, you know, Israel is a very heterogeneous society, very many different groups within Israel, very diverse mix of segments within Israel. The largest segment, besides the Jewish population, is the Arab Israeli population. It's about 20% of current population of Israel. And the Haredi population, which is about 13%. And those two make up about a third of the state of Israel today.
Yes.
And by the way, for kids under 14, they're almost half. They're about 45% of the population under 14 in Israel today. Very few of them relatively go to university, traditionally.
Yeah.
Most of them, as we know in the Haredi community, will go to a yeshiva. But increasingly, for the future of the state of Israel, we need that third that's becoming, over the next several decades, half of Israel's population, Israeli Arabs and Haredim, to go to university. We critically need them because the state of Israel needs highly educated, skilled manpower, particularly for the innovation Israel ecosystem. We all know Startup Israel, Innovation Israel, but that's fueled by highly educated, highly skilled manpower. And if a third and increasingly half of the population does not go to university, does not get those kind of higher level degrees that can feed that Israeli innovation ecosystem, the future of Israel is at risk. And so we are the largest educator of STEM students across not just Israeli Arab, Haredim, but all of Israel's population. We are about a quarter of all the STEM students in the 9 universities in Israel. About 25% of them are studying at the Open University.
25%.
So we are by far the largest feeder of STEM students into the Israeli economy.
From all these students that have been, what have you seen in results? Some stories, some success stories. I know they are not.
Yeah.
But some stories, can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So look, I think we're a younger university, so we haven't been around as long as other universities in Israel, but we have had, I think, tremendous success, and I will cite a couple of examples. One is if you ask students what do they like, and all Israeli students, there's a survey across all the universities of what is the favorite university in terms of model of education, the Open University, teaching methodology, Open University, access to the professors, the Open University, along a variety of key statistics that talk about student satisfaction, the Open University comes in first place. Second, I would tell you that the graduates of the Open University are very successful. So if you look at a survey that the Labor Ministry did recently about university graduates across all of Israel's universities 5 years after graduating in a variety of fields, in computer science, in economics, in social sciences, the Open University came in the top third of income, monthly income across all of Israel's 9 universities and colleges. There are many colleges in Israel on top of that. And finally, I will tell you that about 16 of the current Knesset members are graduates of the Open University.
All right, being a Knesset member is not we cannot say it. That's not a success.
Maybe
right?
that's success, maybe that's not success. Many high-tech entrepreneurs, many high-tech exits that are led by Open University graduates, many leaders in the IDF, in municipalities all across Israel are graduates of the Open University.
You are bringing the opportunity to people that maybe they didn't think they could be going to university. Now they are going because they thought to go to Tel Aviv, to live in Tel Aviv, to go every day to Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, or to go to one of these. It's not a matter of money, because you told me every university charges the same. So it's not a matter of money. It's a matter of distance, way, opportunities, and you're opening a new opportunity for them. Is that correct?
We're opening the aperture. We're creating opportunity for kids who, many of them would probably not go to university if they didn't go to the Open University, both because the access, the eligibility requirements we waive,
all right,
because we are accessible in terms of both online and the 70 campuses,
all right.
And we offer a very flexible, a very modern, if you will, the digital equivalent of what it takes to study in anywhere, anytime, any place you like at a very, very high level. And so for the State of Israel, we are opening up opportunity for those that many of them would not go to university otherwise. And one statistic I'll leave you with, 80% of our students are first generation in university today.
All right.
So
that's impressive.
We are creating really opportunity for people that otherwise would probably not have that opportunity.
That's also aware for outside Israel. How are you doing with outside Israel? Because it's important, maybe not only for people who wants to study, also for people who wants to help the state. How is it with outside Israel?
So, the Open University can be accessed anywhere, and our students, while the courses are essentially all in Hebrew, so it's really for a Hebrew-speaking population. As we all know, Israelis are everywhere in the world, and so we have students that are in almost every country in the world that are studying at the Open University. The bulk are in Israel, but you will find students in Beijing and in New York and in Mexico and everywhere, and they take their exams at the nearest Israeli embassy.
That's curious. They don't do it in-line. They do it on the web.
The tests have to be done, in a way that is foolproof. So.
All right. But also, if you want to go to study, if you are in Mexico and you want to go to study, is there a possibility? It can be a good option for many Orthodox people, for what you are saying, for many Orthodox people, because you have a campus maybe near some of the more Haredi or more Orthodox cities or places.
We have over 2,200 ultra-Orthodox Haredi students, 50% by the way men, 50% women.
Right. That's interesting.
That are all over Israel. Some of them study purely online, some of them study at one of our campuses, or some of them study in a hybrid fashion. It's highly flexible. They are provided with support infrastructure to make sure that they're ready for university level courses. They're provided with kosher computers, separate men and women, of course, to be respectful of what is necessary. And we would welcome many, many more to come from Mexico and everywhere around the world.
Thank you very much. What will you say is the most important thing people should remember and be acknowledged about the Open University of Israel?
The Open University, I would say, is vital for the future of the State of Israel because of its size, 53,000 students, because of its impact on the Israeli society, both in terms of educating the next generation that will power the State of Israel, but also for creating a fairer, more harmonious society, because we are really the only university that brings all of the parts of Israel's diverse mosaic together. The army does some of that, but Arab Israelis don't serve typically, Haredi don't serve. We cover every population in Israel, and so we are vital for the future of the State of Israel.
Ran, thank you very much. We will be in touch with you. We will be hearing more about the Open University in Israel, and we will be hearing more about their successes, their everything that happens there, and what is such a good opportunity, not only for Jewish people in Israel, but for all the Jewish population around the world.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.